Welcome to the Limitless Leaders Podcast. This is a show where my guests and I explore and expand on all things mindset, leadership, and communication. On the show, I interview inspiring leaders, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all walks of life, where they share their stories, experiences, and lessons. This is a podcast for you if you're looking to learn, grow, and accelerate your life, career, and who you are. Hi, and welcome to the Limitless Leaders Podcast, where I interview amazing people from all walks of life, including corporate, business owners, amazing thought leaders and authors, and people from everyday life. Today, I am super excited to introduce you to Dr. Jenny Brockis. She's a best-selling author, board-certified lifestyle medicine practitioner, and workplace health and wellbeing consultant. She's worked with business leaders, busy professionals, and individuals, and her aim is to educate, inform, and inspire positive and transformational lifestyle change. She provides practical, achievable, and evidence-based solutions to mitigate, resolve, and help prevent many of the modern maladies of life. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you, Renee. It's lovely to be with you.
Yeah, I've been super excited for this podcast, and I don't say that on every podcast. I recently have read your book, and I have notes, and it's just brilliant. I think this is your fifth book, and we'll get into that. I'd love to sort of get a feel, Jenny, of your story. How have you got to be doing what you do today?
How long have you got, Renee? It's going to take
a 3-hour podcast, no. Just briefly,
So I started off life doing conventional medicine, and knew from the time I entered medical school that I wanted to be a GP. I didn't want hospital stuff, and was fortunate enough to migrate to Australia at a time when I'd already graduated, but hadn't actually got into general practice at that point. And the Australian system is so fantastic for making things possible. And I found myself opening up my very own group medical practice a couple of decades ago now, which would never have been possible if I'd stayed in the UK. So that was a huge whoa for me. Yeah. Because it also meant I could practice medicine as I wanted to. I was never a fan of 5-minute slots, chop, 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 chop. I wanted to get to know people, to understand what makes them tick. And the practice was very successful. It was, going from strength to strength. I had some marvelous assistant doctors. I had beautiful, assistant staff as well. And all was great until it wasn't.
Yeah.
And that was the point when I burnt out, as in completely burnt out. It took me 2 years to fully recover and decide what the heck I'm going to do next. And I learned a lot from that experience, which basically revolved around, if you make work your be all and end all, you miss out on an awful lot of the rest of your life. And I moved into the workplace health and wellbeing space because I realized there was so much illness and distress there that I really wanted to help people operate at a high level that actually made them feel good and happier.
Yeah.
And at that time, I then fell over what is known as lifestyle medicine. I didn't even know existed up until sort of 2016, 2017, and thought, these people talk my language. These people are all about what I am, which is about asking what keeps you well, rather than just sticking a Band-Aid on the hemorrhaging wound. It's like, let's get to the nitty gritty of, what can we do to keep you healthy, which I got very excited about. So I sort of retrained in lifestyle medicine and have embraced that and taken that into my corporate work, leading with Wellbeing.
Yes.
And that's what makes me tick. That's what gets me excited. And it reignited my passion for medicine, because I was so dismayed at how the system sort of enabled me to burn out in the way I did. And I know a lot of people burn out. It's not just me in my story, but I thought there's something inherently wrong in the way we look at work and how we define success and these other things. And I thought, we've got to get back to the realization that as human beings, we actually do really well when we take care of ourselves and take care of each other.
Yeah.
Rocket science, not, but
it's not. That's the thing. And that's so beautiful that there's been your background, and then there's, and I actually love the term lifestyle medicine. And you've got that beautiful intersection now where you can offer that, but in a corporate arena, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. So tell me a little bit more about what is lifestyle medicine, because I had never heard that terminology. What is it?
It's a speciality of medicine. It's been around for over 20 years. Around the planet. It's not just in Australia. It started in America first, and it's now in multiple different countries. Basically, it's a holistic approach to health. It's not just physicians who become lifestyle medicine practitioners. Anybody with an allied health degree can also become part of the movement. And it's about looking at the 6 pillars of what keeps us well: what we choose to eat, how we choose to engage with some form of physical activity, what the quality of our sleep is like, how we manage our stress, how we manage our relationships, and of course, how we don't try not to fall into the trap of seeking things to make us feel better, which actually aren't good for us, like, collapsing on the couch at the end of another day thinking, and for the bottle of wine, and then having too much of that, or using other means to sort of make
instant pleasure. That's not sustainable.
Yeah, that's right. So those are the fundamentals. But there's a 7th unofficial pillar, which I am particularly passionate about, which is what I wrote the book about, which is about the importance of getting out into nature, stepping outside, because we have moved from being people who live in towns and villages and, just in smaller groups. We're now moving to live in big cities. And this is a trend that's going to continue. And unfortunately, as a consequence of that, when we are living in urban jungles where it's all concrete, with less vegetation around us, this is having a negative impact on our health and well-being. And I firmly believe it is contributing to the rising tide that we see of so much stress and distress, so much anxiety, so much depression, and so much burnout. Getting outside has been shown by the science to actually help us manage those things more effectively. And it doesn't have to be, a month-long hike in the wilderness. It can be just a few minutes. Just a few minutes.
Yeah, I love that, and the 5 and the 6th pillar. I think that's important. And I read a book a week. I'm a big reader, and I'm not just saying, this has probably been my favorite book that I've read this year. I love the practicality, the warmth of it. You've simplified it. I've heard and read it is that once we're outside in nature, our brain can't comprehend the complexity of nature, and that's why it shifts back a gear. Is that sort of part to do with it?
That's definitely part of it. When we're inside and sort of on task, often sitting in front of a computer and a screen, we become hyper-focused on that one particular thing. As soon as we step outside, there's so much variability from the sky to the movement and the trees, the vegetation. You can hear different things. That has what they call a softer fascination for us.
Ah.
So it calms us down physiologically. It calms our body down. It calms our brain down.
Yeah.
Simply by getting outside and getting a different perspective on things.
Yeah. I just love it. It is. It's what I love about it is everything in this book is accessible to anybody. It's just we all have the choice whether we're going to do it or not. And there's so many great tools in there. I'd love to, and I'm always about the optimistic side, but there were some stats in there around 1 in 7 adults in Australia are taking antidepressants, 1 in 5 are living with a diagnosed mental health issue. I have someone very close to me in my family that's had that for 30 years. And nearly 20% of people saying they have some form of anxiety. Has that increased since the pandemic? Or is it just it's talked about more?
I think both. I think that the statistics indicate that we're still seeing this rise.
Yeah.
The people who operate in this space were warning that after the pandemic, we were going to see this ongoing upward trend, and that's very much been evidenced.
Yeah.
And I think there's also the awareness that there is a lot of it about.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is a good thing because at least it means that people are more willing sometimes to talk about it and to look at ways to mitigate it. Yeah. Because I get frustrated when I hear of, it's usually a government initiative for saying, well, throw some more money at this, we'll do this and we'll do that, as if it's going to fix it. It doesn't fix anything.
No.
It's about looking at, well, what's the contributing factors? What are some of the fundamentals that are causing so many people to feel so distressed and lonely? One thing that came out of the pandemic was the rise in loneliness.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is also so devastating for our health and well-being. So what can we do in very simple, as you said, accessible ways, just to reduce that potential risk and to enhance our ongoing mental well-being? Because I think it's not just about dealing with what we've got to deal with today. It's about future-proofing how we are going to cope with stuff as we go on. Because, life doesn't stand still. The earth doesn't stand still.
No.
Everything's moving. Everything's changing. We have to retain that adaptability and curiosity as to, well, what works for me? Because what I choose to do for my mental and emotional well-being may be different from what you choose.
Yeah, that's right.
There's no one size fits all. And that's why in the book, I try to sort of make it obvious that nature isn't for everybody. Some people hate being outside. They hate getting sand between their toes. They hate being dirty. I know. So it's about finding what aspects of nature do appeal to you and then utilizing that. I mean, some people, for various reasons, can't get outside very well. Maybe they've got physical impairment. They're in a wheelchair or something like that. They might be living at the top of a multi-story building. There's so many reasons why people can't always access the green space that so many of us otherwise take for granted. Yeah. But the little things we can do to change that, sort of keep nature in. And I think the big space that we need to really address is the workplace, where organizations and business leaders recognize that if they're really serious about ensuring that their employees are fit, healthy, and happy at work, integrating some of they're called biophilic elements, some greenery of some sort, even whether it's just the color or an image or a plant or something
that's inside and out.
It makes a difference to how we think, how productive we are, how we get on with other people.
Relationships. Well, this is I love that. It's about, you're right, bringing the outside in, and I think, and we've all seen it. Businesses that are opening whiz bang offices to get people back, cupcakes, ad hoc yoga. To me, that's their events. They're not sustainable, immersions of well-being. I just wanted to touch on, if you don't mind, you talk about the Great Awakening, which is obviously the pandemic, the time when I think you said 57% of the world was stationary. How did that impact, do you think, nature first? So what went on out there, and then how people reacted to that or responded to that?
What was interesting, because I sort of dived into some of the research and work that other people had put together around about that time, was that there was a sudden realization that nature was carrying on as before. We were all in lockdown dealing with this global problem. But the world carried on around us. Nature carried on going through its different seasons. The flowers are flowering, the trees were sprouting new leaves and whatever. And I think noticing that was reassuring to us as people, noticing that despite everything, the rivers were still flowing, the sun was still coming up in the beginning, sitting down and stuff like that. So I think there was this sort of realization that I think it was helpful to help us to understand it. Yeah, we can get through this. Pretty bad at the moment, but we will get through this. And there were certain people who were documenting what they noticed about the great outdoors. So these were people like botanists and ecologists going out and literally journaling what they witnessed. And it was almost like there was a resurgence in nature. All of a sudden, the flora and fauna didn't have to be so mindful about where are those pesky humans anymore.
No cars on the road, no
cars on the road. Oh, wasn't it marvelous? I love that quiet. So I think that made a big difference. And the other thing that happened, of course, when we were all put into that state of thou shalt not go out of thy house except for 1 hour a day for exercise.
Hello, I was in Melbourne.
Yeah, hello, you were. Oh. I think many people then realized just how important it was. People couldn't wait to get out of those four walls. And I saw so many people going out as family groups out for a walk with the new dog.
Lots of pets, lots of
pets. But people were just looking for every opportunity to get outside. And I remember thinking at the time, I thought, this is really good because it's reminding people that we do feel better when we have spent time outside, even if it's just a walk around the block or going down the local park for a picnic or something. And I had this optimistic idea that we would then continue with those good habits. But we're also creatures of habit. And there was a gentle slide back down to, where we were before, overworking, not getting out as much, wishing it could be different. And
back on the treadmill.
Back on the treadmill.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Like you're right. People that probably never went for walks did because they were allowed to, or they did it when they weren't meant to because there's that whole, you do what's forbidden. I know I noticed being in Melbourne, we were, everything went virtual and was a lot of stress as well, business-wise. But I remember the sound of the birds, absolutely tripled. People in parks, you couldn't find a spot. And it, I think we went to human beings and back to human doings. We're on this treadmill again. What I was going to ask you in relation to that, a lot of the anxiety, the mental health issues, etc., are coming from chronic stress.
Yes.
What I guess I'd love to know sort of what that is and the paradox of stress. Is that okay? Just to share with everyone.
Yeah. So the paradox of stress is that we evolve with stress as a useful strategy to help us to survive. So stress has always been useful from that perspective. It helped us to recognize when we're in a place of danger. But that was really an on-off switch. And the problem is today that many of us, because of the way we have chosen to work and operate, are doing too much, which is putting our system under increased stress. So we normalize the amount of stress that we're carrying in our body generally. It may not be always overtly manifesting. You know, some people who feel really stressed get bad headaches, migraines, or stomach pains, or whatever, and then muscular tension and that sort of stuff. But sometimes it's hidden inside. You can't actually see it or feel it. But over time, that then creates what's called inflammation within the body. And it is the inflammation that does us harm. So it's like when you get a stubbed toe. You stub your toe and you think, ouch. And then you notice the skin gets all red and hot and inflamed, and you think, oh, it's sore. And you're hoping that your body's going to sort of fight the inflammation and get rid of it before it becomes infected. Same sort of principle going on inside that we can't see. Chronic stress leads to generalized inflammation, which morphs into disease and illness, including the mental health challenges of anxiety and depression. We now understand that many of our chronic diseases, whether you're talking about mental health challenge or whether you're talking about health, heart health, lung health, joint health, whatever health, so much is related to the level of inflammation we have in our bodies. Yeah. And because we can't see it or feel it, we're not always aware of what's going on until something pops up on our horizon and we think, oh, well, how come this has happened, or how come I've developed that? And as lifestyle medicine doctors, we are looking to mitigate. Well, first of all, we're looking to prevent, then we're looking to mitigate established problems, including some forms of cancer, and in some instances, reversing that disease process. And this is particularly true in conditions like type 2 diabetes, where it's been shown categorically that if you pick it up early and in good time, you can reverse it. Amazing. So that you end up in a non-diabetic state, rather than thinking, oh, I've been told I've got diabetes. That means I've got it for the rest of my life. I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to have to do the other. Not necessarily so. And so many of our chronic diseases can be better managed through lifestyle choices.
Yeah. I think it's just amazing. I'm excited because I've obviously been ingrained in the system, in 2000 last year, with breast cancer, and I've had a great team, and I can't say anything wrong about them, but it is all reactive, right?
Yes.
And it take this, and a lot of the treatment's been, poisons. And I saw a naturopath, Jenny, all the way through, and I still do, just to a cancer naturopath, just to see what I could and couldn't take. And I've stayed quite well considering, but I think there's definitely a lot of work of integrating this into the health system in Australia and, hopefully globally. Yeah.
I think it is happening. And I think it's because we understand intuitively that this is what makes the good stuff start to happen. It's the integration of all the different disciplines. And that's why, for example, you're going through a cancer recovery program.
Yes.
You're going through all the bits that you have to do to get there.
Yeah.
It's also about then looking at the exercise program that's specific for you.
Yeah.
The nutritional aspects of your recovery, which are particular to you, to ensure that, you're managing your sleep and all those sorts of things. Because I think the one statistic that has stuck with me for such a long time now is that of all our health outcomes, medical input only accounts for 20% of them.
Wow.
And that blew my mind, because I'm thinking, hey, I'm trained as a doctor.
Yeah.
To get people better. But the reality is, we can do all these great things and provide wonderful treatments.
Yeah.
But overall, it's everything else that comes along with that actually determines our overall level of health and well-being.
That's staggering. I think I did read that in the book, and I sort of went, I'm sure I would have underlined that. That's, when you think of, and I think too, Jenny, we've got this world of AI, there's overuse of technology, screen times, kids. I mean, I've got nephews, I see it, It's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
What if I just asked you, I know this is really top line, but what would be the 5 biggest things that you think contribute to inflammation in the body? I mean, there's probably hundreds, but what are 5 that people listening or watching would resonate with? Or hopefully not.
because it all comes back to the initial sort of being overstressed over a prolonged period of time. I think it's about recognizing your own tolerance of stress.
Yeah.
Because again, we're all different. So I call myself a recovering workaholic.
Oh, I like that.
I've always been highly driven, high achiever, always seeking to do more, learn more, give more, do more, etc., etc., etc.
I wonder I love you.
So it's about understanding that that is actually not sustainable. It's a sustainability issue more than anything. So what is sustainable for you as an individual? How much time do you need to be devoting to this place we call work? And the people I worry about the most are the people that tell me, I love my work so much, it doesn't feel like work. And I'm thinking, it is work and your body's treating it as work. So
yeah, you're right.
Tell yourself that you're safe, because no, you're not.
No.
So it's putting those boundaries in place. It's about having those rituals that can be the smallest thing that you know you do with intention, because it sets you up to feel calmer, to feel better, to feel less stressed. You can feel that cortisol going down. And to also make sure that we're putting enough rest into our day. And there's a lady by the name of Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith, I think that's how you say her name. She's an American physician, and she's written a little book called 7 Sacred Types of Rest.
Oh,
and it just makes perfect sense, because we tend to think of rest as just sleep, or napping or something like that, but that's just physical rest. We need mental rest, we need emotional rest, we need social rest, we need spiritual rest, we need creative rest as well. So it's recognizing that, you know, in our domain of life, we have all these different aspects of what matters to us. So it's tuning into what matters the most for you and making sure you honor those first, and then try to include the others.
I love that. I'm big on, especially with all the leaders we work with, boundaries, you know, setting up rituals and habits, and I call them energizing bubbles. Doing what you love, not just what you're good at. We do work on that. There's a big difference. The rest sounds amazing. You know, I'm not great at rest. I'll be the first to say that. I've just read a book called Radical Rest.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's a very good. It's quite good, but it's very good. And someone I speak to a bit, she's like, "What sort of rest do you like?" And I said, "It's alert relaxation for me. I find it real." So I do walking meditation. I don't need a lot. I've never needed a lot of sleep. Like you said, everyone's different. But I love that. Boundaries, your rituals, and having intentionality around the way you set your week, your day up to serve you.
And it takes practice. It's not something that you think, oh yeah, I'll do that, and then you just write out next week, I'm going to do this. It doesn't work like that. Doesn't mean no. It's setting the intention first, and then putting in the practice, and knowing that some days it's just not going to happen. But by continuing with it, you get better at it, and then it becomes natural and just part of everything you do, without it feeling like another thing that you have to do. I started doing cold water plunges in our backyard.
That's what you do. Yeah, so you're doing those. Yeah.
Yeah, I started October last year, and I sort of jumped into the pool one day, thought I'll just give it a go, and thought, oh my goodness, that's cool. And my husband ran out and he said, "Jenny, what do you think you're doing? I haven't turned the solar heating on." I said, "No, I don't want the solar heating on. This is what I'm trying to do, get used to cold water." And he was thinking, what is she doing? Because he knows I'm a hot water girl.
Yeah.
Like hot showers. I don't normally go swimming unless it's a certain ambient temperature. And he said, what are you doing? I said, I think this is actually meant to be good for me.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'll give it a go. So I did it that day. The next day it was raining. And I thought, well, I don't want to get wet. So I didn't do it. And so it was about a week later before I went in again.
Mm.
Then I thought, you know what, I'm going to try, because it's not always possible every day, because it depends on what the day is set up to do. But on the days that I can, it's part of my morning ritual now. I get up, I put the kettle on for a cup of tea, because, you know, I'm English by heritage. I do like my morning cup of tea.
Yeah.
That's I have a cup of tea. And then I jump into the pool just for a few minutes. And it's interesting. Now we're sort of over a year later. I still go,
yeah, well, the natural response.
I get in, but it's not that same. I have acclimatized to it. I look forward to it. And I even find that I can go in the shower afterwards with just the cold tap on.
Wow.
Now, if you'd asked me to do that last year, I would have said, no way, Jose. So it's about doing those things which...
getting the good feeling from them to want to do them again.
Makes you want to do them again. Yeah. But initially, it's going to be hard. And I think I love the saying, choose your hard.
Yeah.
Choose the one hard that you know is worth the while to make it work for you.
And you look amazing. You look amazing. Have you noticed a difference in your energy, your well-being from doing the hot cold?
I know it has. It's made a difference, definitely, to my mental well-being.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm the first to acknowledge that over the years, my mental well-being hasn't always been in the place where it needed to be. But it's just been a sort of journey to uncover which things or activities work for me. And that is one of them, along with my cup of tea and stepping outside.
Yeah.
So I make my cup of tea, I go outside the back door, just stand.
Yeah.
And I just look around me, and I just think it makes me feel grateful.
It does. I was going to talk to you about that because I'm big on gratitude, and I think, you know, big believer in it. I think it's what's got me through everything. But it's that whole, you can't have empathy or you can't be in gratitude until you're aware. Yes. This is the thing. A lot of people are like, show us how to do empathy, but it's like, let's go back a step. You have to create that space to be aware.
Yeah.
So I've got so many questions for you going through my head here. So I just want to ask you, we do a lot of work around limitless leaders. So leaders that learn, unlearn, relearn, evolve, and tap into 5D energy, which is spiritual, social, mental, emotional, and physical. So, you know, and we bring a little bit of well-being in. How important do you think it is for leaders, especially when they've got the responsibility of other people and they're hopefully leading by example? How important is it for them to model good well-being?
It's critical. I don't believe you can be an effective, I was going to say sustainable leader unless you practice well-being for yourself first. Yeah. Because it is what you model that enables other people to follow suit.
Yes.
If you demonstrate that you take health and well-being seriously, and it's obvious to other people around you that this is what you actually are doing, and they can see. Yeah. It's of benefit because they can see that you're looking healthy, that you do the energy, you're probably a nicer boss all round, that it's worthwhile. And that's why I think there's so many people out there in the health and wellbeing space at the moment. Yeah. We need to make sure that everybody is engaged at every level, and it has to start at the top.
Yeah, definitely.
what I learned fairly early on in the piece when I started doing this work with workplace health and well-being was that there's nothing more frustrating than being asked to go and work with a team, knowing that those at the top aren't engaged in what I was teaching their employees.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what do we? It's useless.
Yeah.
It's demoralizing, and I think it's actually harmful, because if you're teaching people about what they can do for their own health and well-being, particularly in the workspace space,
yeah,
they know that's not going to be supported or condoned by the next tiers up.
Yeah.
You're actually going to make people feel worse.
That's right. I get that. It's the same when we do a lot on comms and EQ and mindset and leadership. And they say, can you start at the front team? And you go, well, it's a cascade, right? And it connects from the top. And well-being needs to be a way of being, not I call them sugar hit, not a sugar hit, like a.
Yeah. I think one of the things that irks me is when I see health and well-being events being promoted as a perk.
Oh,
it should never be a perk. It should be part of the culture of how that organization functions as a living, breathing organism. It's never a perk.
No. Yeah. And there's a lot of that going around at the moment. I know here and in Asia, because I do a lot of work out of Asia Pac. The other thing that I've noticed too is, it's, I don't know, it needs to be bought into the ways of working, and people need to get buy-in, because I think there's a lot of people that go, I'm fine, I don't need this. And it's almost like I'm not cool if I'm vulnerable about where I'm at. Yeah. But I always say to people around the energy side, when were you most energetic in those 5 areas? And if it's not now, what's changed? So you've got that comparison. Jenny, in your book, and I love the structure. So the first part's all about reconnecting with nature. What do you need to attend to? And you go through, senses, right? So sight, hearing, smell, taste, body, mind, and soul. And then you go through the medicine that nature gives us, which, is the 5 sort of elements: air, sunshine, water, earth, and animals. I'd love, just with the sake of time, and people they do need to read the book, are you happy just to give us one example of each of the 5 senses of something practical? So sight, something people can do for each one.
With sight, it's a great way to restore attention fatigue, because I know that if I've been working a lot and I'm feeling a bit sort of, I need to get outside, because when you look outside and you just open your eyes, you start to notice things around the periphery rather than just one thing. You're broadening that perspective, which immediately helps to restore your attention, so that when you go back inside and you sit down at your computer again, you've actually got a bit more focused attention available to you to do better work. So just stepping outside, just to get up, notice.
I love that.
Hearing is similar to sight, because sight's our dominant sense for most of us. Yeah. Hearing sort of comes as a close second. And I don't know if this happens to you, Renee, but sometimes if I'm really sort of locked down into something I'm really sort of engaged in and busy, I stop hearing what's going on around me.
You become oblivious. You're in a bubble.
Completely oblivious. And this is where getting outside with nothing in your ears, no ear pods, buds, no mobile phone, turn it off to silent. Do not take your iPad or a laptop, and just listen to the noises that you can hear around you, and be discerning about what they are. I mean, is it a bird? What type of bird is it? Is it human related noise? Is it traffic or an airplane or a jackhammer or something like that? What are the different types of noises in your environment that you can tune into and just sort of appreciate, hopefully? I mean, I don't like a lot of human noise, I must confess. I like the natural sounds. And the three natural sounds which are most soothing for us to our minds are bird song, wind, and water. So depending on where you are, what you've got accessible, if you've got a water source, a fountain, or
that's so true. Or waves, or
listening to the waves crashing, and just listening to the wind in the trees. I mean, we've got a beautiful bushland walk near us, and just hearing the breeze as it moves through the branches, it's lovely. So that's hearing.
Love that. Yeah.
Smell and taste usually go together because they're interconnected. So what we smell, we taste, and what we taste, we smell. And I think, again, we're so sort of caught up in the busyness of everything, we stop appreciating what we can smell. Unless somebody wafts past wearing too much perfume, we don't notice the smells so much. And I know not all smells are great, but just slowing down, and just to, especially if you're going to take a lunch break, there's a practice for you.
There's a perk.
Oh, yes, it's a well-being perk. Let's have a lunch break.
Yeah.
To really just sort of notice what you're eating, what you can smell around that food is just really good for us.
Yeah.
And of course, touch. We so underestimate the value of touch. Our little fingers with our Pacinian corpuscles in our fingertips are so sensitive. They can, tell the difference between just a gentle brush stroke or something a bit firmer. There's so many different aspects to touch that we never think about.
Yeah.
But it's actually really important to us. And it's the combination of all those senses that remind us of other events from the past, so the very strong sense of memory. Some things we see or hear, but especially the smells and tastes, and what we can feel as well. Certain touch, certain textures, certain materials.
Sitting on the lawn in a park.
Yes.
And even just having hands, that whole grounding. Yeah, it's amazing. You do feel, I feel vibrating when I do it. I'm very into it.
Yeah. So there's just those, and it's really simple little things. They're not big.
No.
It's just little tiny things that make a difference.
No, I love it. I absolutely love it. I lost my taste for 6 months, and I don't know if you know this, Jenny, but my big passion out of work is cooking. So I have a cooking channel. I love cooking. So Sri Lanka, everything, no recipes, don't like processed. It's my meditation. So losing my taste for 6 months, I was still eating, but my love language is food. So I'd still cook for my hubby, but friends would bring food but I felt so terrible because it just tasted like a leather boot, everything. And my hearing went to another level low.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And they checked it out and said your senses and touch and everything's like doubled. Centralized sensitization they diagnosed me with when the taste has come back now. And the other day, I'm not a big sweet tooth, but I had a little bit of chocolate and I sat there and I just closed my eyes, and the tastes I could get that I would never normally. It's been really interesting. I've been like a bit of my own social experiment.
Yeah.
But
wow, so interesting. And thank goodness it's coming back.
Yes. Oh, the day it started coming back, I was just like, wow. And a friend actually bought me these natural little, they're natural, but you put them under your tongue and you can taste sweet. But I'm not a sweet tooth. I'm a savory person. So then everything was tasting sweet. It's your body's amazing, like tuning into it, and till you lose a sense, you don't realize how much of your life and everything it is. There's some great ideas there. One little thing I'd love to just chat about before we bring it in. You talk about nature's medicine, which is air, sunshine, water, earth, and animals. I'm a massive animal lover. My next life, I'll have a menagerie of animals. Tell me how animals actually impact our well-being for good.
It's been shown that having a domestic animal, whether it's a cat or a dog or something else, alpaca, doesn't matter, that you interact with on a regular basis is beneficial to you and the animal, because they are emotional beings as well.
Yeah.
And when we pet or stroke them, they like it, but we like that sort of interaction as well. So it's very beneficial, especially for our emotional well-being.
Yeah.
One of the other advantages is not so much if you're a cat owner, but if you're a dog owner, it gets you outside because the dog needs to be walked.
Oh, that's right.
So there's something about the joy of watching an animal galloping around a park or an oval, just because they can. And you can see the pleasure that they are experiencing. That makes us feel good too.
Yeah.
And of course, you meet other animal owners and you've got something to talk about. So it's brilliant as a way of enhancing your social connection, because you cross paths with another dog owner, you're invariably going to reach down, ask what's the dog's name, and you chat about it, and you might never see the person again. Doesn't matter. You've had that momentary human animal interaction, and it's good for us, really good for us.
I heard the other day on the radio when I was driving somewhere that the best place to date is walking your dog.
I can believe that for sure. Yes.
Yeah, it's we've always had dogs, 2 rescue dogs. They both lived till they were 15. And then just before COVID, this little stray cat turned up who happened to be someone's in our street that they weren't looking after. So we took him in.
Yeah.
He's 22 now. He's got Bengal.
Been looking after him very well.
Yeah, I want to come back as my cat. No, but he climbs gum trees. He's out in the day, in at night, sleeps at the end of the bed, jumps up, can't be with other animals, something's happened. But I have to say, after each chemotherapy, I had full days of it. And the 2 days after, I was pretty sick. He would sit on my chest and his eyes went really opaque and he was throwing up. So I took him to the vet and she said, has anything changed? And I said, oh, it's happening. And I went, wow. I said, it's happening when I have chemotherapy. And she said, he's absorbing it. And I believe cats are like walking crystals. And I just went, you are having salmon steaks for the rest of your life. Probably have him till he's 30. I just love chatting today. Before we go into some quick trivia, how can people find you, your amazing programs, and your books, including your new book, The Natural Advantage?
Easiest place for people to find me, Renee, is my website, drjennybrockis.com. And I've got a fairly active profile on LinkedIn and Instagram. So those will be the best places to find me.
Awesome. And if they want to buy your book?
Yeah, it's available from my website. It's also available online from the usual suspects, Amazon, Booktopia, etc. And a lot of the independent bookstores and Dimmicks are also carrying it. So it's available in lots of different places.
It's a great book. We'll put all those links into the show notes for everyone. I like to do my quick little bit of trivia at the end, Jenny. What is your favorite word?
My favorite word?
I know it's not something most people think about.
No, it isn't. Okay. My favorite word would be sunshine.
Beautiful. It's almost like the word is sunshine, like it's actually movement in the word. I love that. What's your favorite sound?
Bird song.
Bird song, yeah, gorgeous. And if you had your last supper, and you won't, but if you did, what would you have to eat?
Oh, I think it would have to be an eggplant parmigiana with a nice green salad on the side.
That's what I would have. I love eggplant. What is it? I love that. And if you came back and did a different profession on this earth, what would it be?
I think I would be a botanist.
Yeah, I could imagine you. It's never too late.
Never too late. Interesting. We had career advice at my school. It's our history teacher, and she had absolutely no idea about career advice. But anyway, she thought I should go and study agriculture in Wales. because I was living in the UK.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I remember thinking at the time, I don't know what planet she's on, but really, agriculture, me. But it's interesting, having sort of gone through everything I've done,
Yeah.
I realised I'm actually very drawn to understanding more about our planet and the different flora and fauna we have around us. So there you go.
But I think everything you do helps you become who you are and who you continually becoming. I got asked a few weeks ago, what did I want to be growing up? And I'm like, a nurse, then a teacher, then a performer, and then a journalist. And now I do all of that like you do. Like that's why, you're happy and on purpose. I can imagine you like with your own TV show almost. Every channel.
Move over, Costa. I'm coming.
Oh, yeah. Move. No, Jenny, thank you so much for just such relevant, real, and such insightful gems that people can take away. So I want to say thank you for being on the show today. For those listening out there, love your feedback. And as always, if you've got any future guests you'd like us to have on the show, being it is the start of the new year, jump onto our website, reneegiarrusso.com, under events, and we've just launched 3 one-day workshops that you might be interested in. As always, stay well from wherever you're watching or listening from, and we look forward to seeing you on the next Limitless Leaders podcast. Thank you for listening to the Limitless Leaders podcast. So you don't miss an episode, make sure you follow the show in your favorite podcast app. Feel free to share this podcast with your family, friends, and work colleagues. If you're enjoying the show, find out more on what we do at RG Dynamics at www.reinvigorated.com. Until next time, be limitless.